and welcome to the Priggya Arora Show, where we discuss aspects of law and entrepreneurship with people who have been there and done that. My name is Priggya Arora, founder of PA Legal, an intellectual property law firm in India, and our guest for today is an inspiring public speaker coach and a certified mentor, Mr. Haritosh Srivastav. Welcome, Haritosh, on the show.
Thank you so much, Priggya, for having me. It's indeed pleasure and honor to be in your show. Thank you for inviting.
Thank you, Haritosh. So let us start with our warm-up question, which is, what is one thing in life that you can't live without?
Wow, that's an easy one. Maybe this black thing, which we call it phone. This is something that we have all become addicted. So I can say, but jokes apart, I think there's something that happened 5.5 years ago, which is my daughter was born. And I think I'm kind of addicted to her in terms of playing with her, spending some good time with her. We sometimes don't get a lot of time, but I love when I get to spend time with her, enjoy, play. That's, I think, a better addiction to say.
Yeah, I think family is so important. It's just something we can't live without, the love and the care we get from the family.
Absolutely.
So Haritosh, now it's time to tell us your story, how you landed up in this profession, and how did you become the person you are today?
Thank you for saying. So for those who do not know, I was born and brought up in a small town called Jaunpur, which currently I'm visiting. It is next to Varanasi. So for the first half of my life, I was here. I studied in Hindi medium. I did my engineering then. And I remember I was very young and we have this Babatpur airport, which is an airport between Jaunpur and Varanasi. And we used to be on our roof. We used to see those planes flying and the white smoke coming out. And I used to tease my sisters, you see those white smoke that is coming out of the aeroplanes, and one day I'll be flying in those airplanes and all. And both of you used to have a good laugh because both knew that that's not going to happen. We are from a middle class Hindi background guy. How on earth I'm going to be doing something like that? But lo and behold, I completed my engineering. I got into IT company. I went on to and join TCS, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. So till date, I have traveled more than 50,000-60,000 air miles. I've been 3 times on international assignments, and I've been doing a lot of things lately. And a couple of years back, when I'm talking about this public speaking coaching journey, so one thing I understood that regardless of your profession, be it you are a lawyer, an IT or accountant or any profession, you need to learn about public speaking. Unless you know how to express yourself, unless you know how to talk to people, unless you know how to interact with other people on the other side, you won't be able to grow. You won't be able to sustain in any business. So I became passionate about public speaking. I had my own set of failures. I learned from it. I kept on. I joined Toastmaster. I went on doing so. As of last year, I've given more than 150 speeches in different parts of the world, virtual, in person. And I thought, how can I take this to the next level? Because I've been approached by many people who wanted to learn about public speaking. So starting year 2022, I went on and started a new journey of coaching people where you have been part of some of those workshops. Where I tell them whatever I know about public speaking. I'm passionate, and I tell them because I believe everybody has a story, everybody has a voice that needs to come out. Everybody's story needs to be told. And that's where people relate when you tell your own personal stories. So that's pretty much journey about myself.
Very inspiring, Haritosh. Being from the small town and reaching to this level in itself, it's an inspiring story. So Haritosh, I have heard from you, like you mostly say public speaking is storytelling, or whatever conversations we do, it is storytelling. So can you tell us why do you say that, and what is the importance of storytelling in the communication?
Very, very good question, Priggya. So people who are listening or watching this, tell me, what happened before we had phones, before we had internet, before we had newspaper, before we had books, before we actually cultivated any crops? We used to live in caves. And what was that one skill that has carried on from that ape man age so far? Is stories. The ape men, when they used to go out and they used to hunt, they used to be scared of predators, they will come back in the evening at the fireplace and they will tell their kids, their relatives, their friends about the stories, because that was the only way for them to pass on the information. And from there on, the storytelling has been there for ages. Don't think about any of the religions. I'm not preaching any particular religion, but think of Hinduism or Jainism or Islam or Christianity. All of these epics have stories because stories connect to us. Think of any great leaders. No, think of leaders like Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. All of them had a lot of stories. So the reason we need to learn about storytelling is it is the only or the best way to connect with. And I tell you some facts and figures versus I tell you a great story about something, you will remember most likely the story versus the data. I tell you there are 150 countries which are having water scarcity versus I tell you a story about a girl who had to travel 20 miles to fetch the water. And one day, because her bucket broke, she actually went on and committed suicide. And this is such an atrocious thing. But if I ask you after that, would you like to contribute to a charity? When do you think you're going to contribute more? In the first case where I tell you 150 countries are scared, are having scarcity of water versus the story of the girl?
Story of the girl, of course, because emotions are attached to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So emotions are attached and directly reaches to heart, and people will remember long after the stories are told versus the facts and figures. So that's why we all need to have stories. We all need to know stories. We all need to know better way of telling stories.
Wow, awesome. So it's a different perspective and altogether that, we can use storytelling in so many things, like telling a daily day-to-day stuff. Instead of using facts and figures, just use stories and it will reach out to the hearts of people. So Haritosh, now coming to our field, which is legal field, can you tell us something about why? Because I know you have trained a lot of lawyers as well. So why storytelling is important for lawyers being in this profession?
Great question. Why storytelling is important for lawyers in general is that, no, if you are, for example, if you are defending someone's case, if you're defending somebody who's been, let's hypothetically take somebody who has been assaulted, somebody who has been ripped off of their rights that they had. Let's take an example from your profession, somebody who worked years and years of coming up with a beautiful design, with something that they were proud of, but somebody unethically stole that and deprived that person of the legal rights. Now, if you just say that, no, there are 100 people like that every month, and this person deserves to have the loyalty and other things, versus you go and tell the story about that person. The person struggled for 20 years to get this thing created. He is the legal owner. And because of this, he was supposed to earn, he was supposed to carry on with his life. Now, because somebody unethically took his trademark, took his copyright, this person is now losing out on the money, losing out on what all things that he had spent years and years and all. This becomes a story of that you can actually go back and talk about in the legal terms. So even for lawyers, even in legal fields, storytelling becomes more important because more than all the technicalities, if you look at it in terms of what you're going to do is you are telling their stories to somebody who's the authority so that they can take the necessary action. And if you're not able to tell in the right way, you are actually probably setting the plot for losing the case or losing the rights. And that way you are probably not going to have the person who are looking forward to so many things. So it's very important that you tell the stories in the right context, in the right way to the thoughts. So that's one example. Second example probably would be when you are telling your own story. I know your story is so inspiring in yourself when you took the plunge and you came from engineering background, then you went on to another field, and then you said, no, I want to take that plunge of being a women entrepreneur. Now, when you tell that story to whether a potential customer, whether to somebody who's looking up to you, whether to somebody who's competing with you, that creates emotion, and that's what people are looking forward to. They want to know your story. So defending your clients in a way that they are supposed to be defended, marketing yourself. The stories are the best way to market yourself. You know, when you tell the story of Priggya versus you tell all the other things clearly, well, I'm pretty sure they will resonate more with Priggya's story.
Correct. So, I have heard this quote from, it's an Hindi quote which one of my trainers says. He said, "Log logo se connect hote hain, logo se nahi." So people
Absolutely.
do not connect with their brands, people connect with the people. So for that aspect, I think it's really important to create your personal brand, especially when we are not allowed to do advertising and stuff like that. So best thing we can do is probably tell stories. And Haritosh, just to add to the point of defending cases, or using this tool in a legal profession while drafting documents, I'll give a small example from the legal perspective. We have some arguments like sweat of brow theory in copyright law, which says that it's called labor theory or sweat of brow theory, that till the time we do not get the sweat on our forehead, it's very difficult to say that we have put hard work in something to create an original work. So to establish that, we have to give it through facts, and the facts come from the story we write in our legal documents. So it's interesting that sometimes we need to club our legal facts in a way of story just to supplement an argument in law. So people can use storytelling in 100 ways in law itself.
Absolutely. And if you look at that, no, and I'm not a legal profession, I don't give legal advice, but what I've heard from a lot of lawyers and legal professionals is whenever you understand or whenever there's a new law or new rule comes out, there is most of the time there is a story behind that. There is a case behind that. Okay, referring to case this which happened in 1999, where this was the background. This new law was even enacted on. So even for putting those rules around, there are times there are stories that comes into the picture, and then when you look at that backdrop of the rule or the law, then you understand it much better than just telling, okay, this is what it's supposed to be, or this is what it is not supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely correct. So moving on, Haritosh, there are several ways we keep our audiences engaged by storytelling and public speaking. So can you give some examples to our audience so that they also have a wow moment and they also learn about some facts, like how to engage audience while they are speaking?
Right. And I'll give probably two tactics over here. One of them is called pausing. A lot of us, when we think about public speaking or storytelling, we just think that, okay, we have to keep on going. But you also know, you have attended workshop. It's so important to have pauses, because pauses gives us the ability, the audience, the ability to think about, right? If I tell you that, no, how was your day? And I don't stop and just say, okay, what's your work going on? What are you doing tomorrow? What is your weekend plan? But if I'm not allowing you to talk, you'll feel like, why is he even asking question? And we do that. And I ask you a question, or you ask me a question, and you took a pause, and then I took time and respond. But when we are speaking from our mouth, and the audience is speaking from their heart. And you have to recognize that when you ask a question to your audience, that have you ever felt cheated?
Yeah.
I just took a pause, and I'm pretty sure people who listen that 70 to 80% would have actually started thinking about the time when they were actually cheated. Instead of that, if I say, have you ever felt cheated? I was cheated 3 times in my life. People will be like, okay, great. I don't need to think about that. So very important to have pauses after question, after key statements, and after humor. The second thing, which is more to do in terms of engagement, is the eye contact. Very important, because what you want to do is your eyes are a reflection of your soul, and you want to connect to your audience through your eye contact. It's difficult or different when we are in the virtual world, because we have to look at the white dot which is shining, basically the light behind the camera. But in the real world, you want to engage with different sections of the audience through the eye connection. You don't want to look at the sky or look at the ground or look at the window outside. You want to connect to human. That's how we do when we are talking one-to-one. We look at each other's eye for a moment and then think back and then look at the eye. So similarly, you want to look at the different sections of the audience as if you're talking to them. Don't stare for too long. Don't make them uncomfortable, but at the same time, don't look at the floor. I remember I once went to one of my daughter's school training or something they did for parents, and there was an amazing teacher. He was very good. He knew all the stuff. But for the whole 1 hour duration, he was looking at two places, either at the floor or at the door behind. And I was like, why are you not looking at me? I'm supposed to talk to you. And this is very important, very subtle point, but very important, that you want to have eye contact with different sections of the audience. So two major things: having pauses, which allows audience to think, and having subtle but real eye contact with the audience. That helps you to become a better speaker and a better storyteller.
So all the audience who are listening today, I would suggest that do try these things out. Eye contact, even in virtual world, we should try to look at the camera and speak so that we are able to relate to the audience. And the pauses, I think they are absolutely important, because that's how audience, they start thinking and they start responding to whatever you are saying. Yeah. So Haritosh, now coming to your YouTube channel and your podcast and your social media and all the content you create such a beautiful content. So how your journey in social media started and why? And if you can share some important stuff regarding social media.
Sure, that's an amazing question, Priggya. I started, like most of us, I started being a consumer of social media long back. I think probably 6, 7, 8 years back. But when it comes to becoming a creator, I remember, I think it's about 2.5 years back now. One of my mentee, Taiba, and I was talking to her, and this was all lockdown and pandemic, and everybody's locked down. And she said, no, have you tried Instagram Live? I was like, okay, I don't have an Instagram account. What exactly is that? I said, okay, no, why don't you create an Instagram account, and then we'll go live and we'll talk something about public speaking and things like that. One thing I know for sure for me, that I like to explore, I like to try out things. So I said, okay, let's try it out. So we did that. I went to her live and we talked a little bit about public speaking and all. And I got really intrigued. Like, I've never been a creator before, and I was more of a consumer, watching videos or looking at people's photos and all. But that sparked something, and that something changed. So from then on, I started my own Instagram page, and then I started inviting people for interview. And then from there, I went on to YouTube. I started doing the interview videos, posting it, reaching out to people, sharing it on Facebook, LinkedIn, and other places. So, and then one thing leads to another. So in 2020, it was more about experiment and see what else I can do. I was going through some of the coaching programs. So there I did the 51-day life challenge within a group. So that was another experiment for me. And I definitely recommend people to do 30, 45, 50, 80, 90, whatever it is. Coming live on social media gives you a different level of confidence. So I went through that, and then I kept on expanding on YouTube and LinkedIn and other places. And in 2021, I got into podcasting as well. I was really intrigued. I used to listen to podcasts for a couple of years. So I said, okay, what will it take to get into podcasts? So I created an Anchor account and started putting my audio interviews and other things there. One thing that did change in 2022 was I was doing a lot of things. I was doing something else on podcast, something on YouTube, something on Facebook, something else on Instagram. And I was on the verge of being burnout because I have a full-time job. I work in TCS as an IT project manager. I have this coaching, public speaking going on. And then on top of that, doing all of that was actually leading to burnout and exhaustion and all. So starting 2022, I got into, I hired a coach, business coach, to align my strategies. So this year, if you look at it, everything is around public speaking coaching, whether it's my YouTube, whether it's my podcast, whether my Instagram or Facebook and other places. It's only about two things. One is that book that I created, so a little bit about them whenever I hear a new feedback, or I recently got a runner-up award in one of the book awards. So either it's about book or about public speaking, that's it. So I realized that it's so important to focus your energy or converge with respect to your strategy on social media rather than just for creating anything and everything that leads to exhaustion. So that's been my journey of social media. Lot of ups and downs, and still going on.
Yeah, I know it's a lot. After a lot of experiments, we understand that we need to focus on one thing, because I could relate to this so much, because initially I used to do everything on the social media. Now I'm limited to all the legal stuff. It's like, okay, we can, but I think we can definitely work on our side gigs. Like, I enjoy speaking about productivity, mentorship and things like that, so I keep doing it sometimes on my Instagram account. But overall, I think it's important to align yourself to one thing, so that people start recognizing you and you start building your niche in that field.
Right, and it's really interesting. I was sometime I do meditation, not a very big meditator, and there was this story, not story but analogy that the practitioner told once, that no, if you're putting a lot of effort, you also want to have a focus like laser focus. So when you have a laser focus, you can actually burn one point, and that can lead to burning of the whole forest. We're not talking about burning in general, but it's an analogy that no, if you focus, you remember with the focal lens we used to have in our 6, 7, 8 classes, that no, when the sunlight is coming and you put the focal lens, it can actually burn one small piece of paper and then meet cool. So this, after hearing that analogy, something changed. And like, yeah, that makes complete sense. It has to be about around one thing and then focused on that, versus so many other things that you're not able to make impact on any of that. So that's why it is important. And yeah, we all need to do a little bit of here and there every time. But the focus on one thing is very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Haritosh, how do you keep yourself motivated? Because you have a full-time job, then you manage so many side gigs together, and you're doing such a good job at your business, which is around public speaking coaching. And how do you manage all this stuff?
Yeah, I would say there are 2-3 questions in there. How do you manage? Yeah, still learning to manage, but yeah, I like you, I wake up pretty early. I wake up at 5 a.m., 4:30, 5 a.m. So a lot of my focus time or creative time is in the morning, where I'm doing all my reading or meditation or other things in the morning before my work day starts, and right after that. So that is how I keep my time schedule, and I'd like to don't engage into things which I'm not interested in. I've learned to say no to a lot of things, and that is paying off. How I keep myself motivated is a great question, and this is where I think the intent is very important for us. I was really touched because one of my coachee, she's trying to become mental well-being coach, and day before yesterday she had her first webinar and she got her first client, and after that she sent me a great thank you note and we had a conversation. And that's where I feel like, no, I want to do that more. I want to impact people so that they become a better version of themselves. So whenever somebody comes to my workshop and then they learn a few things, then they say thank you. I think that is the biggest reward. That is the biggest motivation that you can have, and no money, no other comfort can actually beat that when you're able to impact lives of people.
Awesome, awesome. It's such very beautiful to know that impact is the most important thing that gives you happiness. So I've heard that the best gift you can give to any person is the transformation. So if you see that transformation happening, I think it gives such peace in itself that you don't want anything else.
Absolutely. There's nothing more rewarding than that. Yeah.
So, Haritosh, now coming to our quick rapid fire round, and we call it as our 3-1 rapid fire round. And we start with 3 things that you are grateful for.
3 things that I'm grateful for. I think the number 1 is the education that was provided by my parents. Number 2 is the trust that my family, my friends show me. And number 1 is the ability to impact people's lives through whatever I do. So I think 3 things that I'm grateful.
Great. So trust, the education you got from your childhood, the trust you get from your family and friends, and the ability to impact lives of people around you. So 2 traits that you think are useful for your legal career.
2 traits, I think one we already discussed. You need to be a good storyteller, and second thing is probably you need to know the legalities or complexity. I think that probably is the 2 traits I can say.
Completely agree. Storytelling and the legal skills that we need to impact our clients. And third, one aspiration you have for the future.
Yeah, I think I have never told this to anyone out there in the world, but no, my aspiration, or you can say my mission henceforward, is to impact lives of million people across the world, not only in India, but across the world, in finding their voice, in becoming a better speaker. So that's my aspiration. One aspiration.
Awesome. I think it is again associated with the impact you create with your clients and with the public, and which will just flow throughout the world.
Correct.
So, Haritosh, very quickly now, some key takeaways for our young lawyers and legal entrepreneurs.
Great question, Priggya. Though I'm not a legal or lawyer profession, I'm not. I can say I'm an entrepreneur now that I'm a coach. I think a couple of things that I do want to say as a takeaway. Number 1 is never miss the reason that you started. Never lose the focus on that. You might have ups and downs in your career. You might get more than expected results. Sometimes you will not get any results, and that's part and parcel of whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are a legal expert and all. But if you remember the reason, the real intent, the why, as Simon Sinek says, that the why should come first. If you remember the why you started this, then everything else will fall into place. And number 2 is needless to say is continue honing your skills, whether it's your legal thing, because I know every year, every month, there are new laws coming up, new rules coming up. A lot of things are changing because of the geopolitical situation that's happening. So keeping yourself abreast of all the new things that's happening, and also working on some of the subtle things like the public speaking, the storytelling, the networking skills are also very, very important. So I think these 2 are the key takeaway for any young legal entrepreneurs.
So I think absolutely right that you said that never forget your why, because why will keep you motivated and it will just take you in that flow of focus and development. And second, skill development, be it any skill, public speaking, networking, connecting with people, drafting your planes or your suits, or drafting any document. I think every skill is important and we should just keep on learning one skill after the another. And that that is the most important thing. So thank you, Haritosh, for being on the show. I absolutely enjoyed our conversation, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Priggya, for inviting me. I'm really, really honored. And anybody who wants to connect with me afterwards, I'm available on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You can reach out to me. I'll share my details with Priggya and you can put it in the notes. But thank you, really. Thank you so much. And as we said earlier, remember your why. Why did you choose why to listen? Why did you choose this profession? And why you want to defend that person? If you remember your why, you will never ever lose anything.
Awesome. Hey there, thank you for attending today's session. If you enjoyed today's session, do follow our channel and consider sharing it with a friend. My name is Priggya Arora, daughter of inspiring parents, alumna of IIT Kharagpur, engineer turned lawyer and entrepreneur, and now founder of PA Legal, where we help creators and innovators protect their intellectual property. Thank you.